Let's begin with prayers. Om Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo, Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat, Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri, Gurave Namaha, Akhandamandalakaram, Vyaptam Yena Characharam, Tatpadam Darshitam Yena, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namaste Sharada Devi, Kashmira Puravasini, Vidyadanam Karishyami, Tirpavatu me sada. Om Shri Sadgurudevaya Namaha. All right, so let's start.
Hari Om, Dhavalji.
Hari Om.
Actually, I'm facing the same problem as Anupamaji told Dhavalji. So, but I was trying with the help of the Chat GPT.
Hmm.
Uh, we four of us we discussed the problem about the assignment as you
Hmm.
told yesterday.
Hmm.
Myself, Ashwini ji, Anupama ji, and Gayatri ji. So
Hmm.
after that, I was trying. Uh,
Hmm.
so I will once you explain us about the React playground, I will show my problem, Dhavalji, where I am stuck.
Okay. Okay. Sure. I will share my screen. Start coding. So it's now starting a new playground. And basically, you don't need to essentially use just this playground. You can use any playground that you are comfortable with. This is just one example. Okay.
That's what this app, I think by mistake, maybe Anupama ji deleted this export function app. It was not there. So then it was saying export is not there. It was asking.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So export is a functionality in JavaScript, which is exporting a particular piece of code as a module. Okay. And we can import modules from other files. So that is the modular exchange. It allows you to break down your code into files rather than having all of the code in one file. Okay, import and export is that kind of functionality. Meantime, let me show you how does this work. So right now we have top level is app, right? Let me first of all do my thing, which is very important for me. I don't know if it's going to allow doing that to me. Okay, let me first log in. All right, so now we have a component called app. Okay, and it's rendering a basic app. Now what I want to do is have a student context and student profile section. So let me remove all these things. I'll create another component called header.
This is TypeScript, no, Dhavalji?
Yeah,
Header?
if it says TSX, then it's TypeScript. If it
But
says,
why, Dhavalji? Why we have chosen TypeScript?
I'll show you why.
Ha.
So, actually, let me not even worry about the interface for header. I'll use that for summary. Okay, so header is actually a component which returns me a heading. वैशाली तेरा फोन आवे. So there is a function called header, which basically returns a header class. Okay. And within header, we have a component called student summary. So we want to create another component called student summary. So here also I'll paste some code. So now I'm doing this within my functions. What I'll do is import header from say header here. Okay, and within my header, I have just copy this. I'm not a big fan of writing everything every time. So I'll say import student summary from student summary. Oh, wait. Yeah. And I will see what's going to happen. Very interesting. I did not say anything here, but it is giving me a problem here. Why would that be? Okay, I guess it is because of the props or something. So let's see if this makes the error go away. Not really. But anyways, the function is going through correctly. So I'll say some h1 heading, h1. So it is giving me correct heading and student summary. I am giving some student summary, which is rendering the student summary. So far, is the component structure clear? Within app, I am importing header. Okay. Within header, I am rendering a heading and also importing student summary and adding that. Within student summary, I have some student summary. So is this hierarchy clear so far?
Yes, Dhavalji.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. One more thing to know is that you will recognize a file called package.json everywhere in all of our apps. Okay. Yeah. And that is the file which uses libraries from npm.js. So whatever I specified here are actually libraries from npm.js. Okay. Whatever I want to use from npm.js, whatever I want to use from npm.js, I can add it here. Just a minute. And that it's going to use from install from the npm modules. So all of these things that we previewed here can be directly used into our project by specifying their name and versions. Okay. And we can directly use that module by importing it anywhere. Like, here we are using React. So it is essentially using React from npm world. So student summary I'm specifying here. Now what I need to do is, given, first let us explore it through the way of props. Student name, student, what
ID,
were the things we wanted
student
to?
ID,
Yeah, student ID,
points, and level.
points, level. Okay. So now what I want to do is, I want to essentially in my student summary, render it using some way. Okay. Let us for now render it in a, what is the right structure for this? Points, level, and student name. Okay, I think these are navigation elements. Okay. So what I would want to do is A, and one is student name. Okay. Sorry, I specified it at the wrong place. So student name, one of them is student name. Another one of them is points and level. Now here I can specify level and points. Okay. Now you asked why I am using TypeScript here. Okay. So the way TypeScript is going to help is specify an interface for this student summary component. Okay. So I can say interface props. Okay. And what I can do is I can say student ID, a number, student name is a string, points is a number, level is a number. Okay. So I have defined what is student summary component going to accept as props? Okay, so what I can say here is student, or I can just say props. Student summary props. Okay. So I specified that the props are of the shape this. Okay. I will simply write this as a destructuring assignment here. So it will start working now. Okay. So this ensures that I cannot misspell anything. Okay. For example, if I say points, then it will immediately tell me that this is a bug. Okay. Points is not existing as a type on the props. Does this make sense? What I did?
Yes, sir.
Yes, yes.
I specified the interface for this component. That is the beauty of using TypeScript TSX file.
Errors can be reduced.
Yeah, errors can be reduced. Now, if other components are going to use this component, pass props around, they cannot pass incorrect props. If two different developers are working on integrating, they will be passing the right data between components.
Okay.
Okay, so now this is rendering whatever we need. Now, what we need to do is this much. Okay. Let's say we have somehow the student data in apps. Okay, so whatever is what we are defining here. Let's pass it along in the app. Somehow, let's say app is deriving it from a server call. So what I will do is student ID 1, student name foo, points 800, level 6 or 4, let's say. Okay. Now what I will do, I will pass down this information to header. Okay. Now header is supposed to receive this as props. And here I can say student summary, student data. Actually, that makes this shape quite different. Okay. So let us do a different way. Student data. Let me think through this for a minute. So we are saying student data equals student data and passing it here props dot student data. Yeah. So it is getting rendered correctly now. Okay, and I don't want to do all this props dot student data everywhere. I think that's a very bad idea. So let me use another technique called destructuring, which will make this very much more readable. Okay, so I'll say student data equal to student data. And instead of saying props dot student data here, I will receive student data directly using this kind of destructuring. So we are saying this student data equal to student data. And even in summary, let's not do this thing. Anyways, this is a throwaway piece of work because I don't want to pass things around like this. Um, okay. Yeah. Now I'm expecting it to work fine, but let's see, wait a minute. Yeah. This is a very interesting problem. Pass through arbitrary props in React. Okay, I think what is making things complicated for the time being is, I'm trying to wrap things up in a header, but let me not worry about a header right now. And for the demo purposes, first of all, let's directly, inject student summary component here. So that will make things more understandable. And what I will do is student summary. Student data. And what I will have to do is what 8 lines of code. That's very interesting. Okay, let me drop this interface as well for the time being to avoid this issue. We need to find a better playground. So what I need to do here is pass the props in this way. Now I remember. Yeah. So this starts working now. We don't need to do all that student data. What do you say? Validation through a different structure. Just a minute. This is superb. Okay. So it is working as expected. Now the thing that I want to actually do is not even worry about passing around this data through props. Okay. This was actually just for a demo purpose. What I want to essentially do is, let me also for now just show you how we would do, if we were to use header here. That will elaborate the problem more. Amazing. For such a simple playground, they are talking about charging. To find another playground. Okay, so in header, we are passing the props, and in student summary, we will pass them through again. So ideally, it should render the what is the problem? Oh, we are not importing header here. All right. So this is working now. But the problem here is that, see, we are passing our props from app to header, right? And from header, we are receiving that props and passing it to student summary. And in student summary, we are receiving it and we are rendering it. Did you see that flow?
Oh, yes, Dhaval.
Okay, from
Yes.
app to header, from header to student summary, and we are finally receiving that in student summary and we are rendering that. Now let's say this is like this is 3 levels deep, but it might be like 10 levels deep. So every time what you will have to do is every time you have to do that exercise of receiving props and passing it on, receiving props and passing it on. Now that's something we don't want to do. Okay. So that is where something called React context comes into picture. Okay. So what context does is what React context does is basically allows you to share a piece of state from top level without having to pass it around all the time. Okay. Share some piece of text at the state at the top level without having to pass around all the time. So what you will need to do as a remaining part of the exercise is, create a context, okay, for a piece of code, student context. And rather than this being held up at the app level, you would want to hold it up at the context level. Once the data is held up at the context level, this exercise stops. Okay, I'll for now just continue here. I don't want to interrupt our exercise. But this exercise stops. You no longer need to worry about, passing this around. Okay, neither you need to define an interface for student summary, because it's going to read the thing directly from the context rather than from the props. Okay. So another thing that we can do here is use context, some context. So let me create this. Yeah, so this piece of code you can see here that they are wrapping everything up in something called theme context dot provider, and whatever the value that they set here is going to be available across all the components that are down in this tree. Okay, so they will not be worried about how the value is set at the top. So that is something that you might have to do. It can be very easily done by telling Bolt to create a student context, store the data at the level of student context, and have student summary access that data from the student context. Okay, let me see if this can export my files, and
Actually,
we
in
can.
ChatGPT, when we asked,
You can also
Dhavalji,
ask
today when
ChatGPT. You can also
it
ask.
gave this only, first code it gave us this only, UE context, setting and all. But we removed it because it was out of our scope.
Yeah,
And we understand
yeah,
what
yeah.
it was. Now
Correct.
it makes sense.
Yeah, but basically what essentially you want to do is, have a student summary component read from the context. Okay, so instead of it reading from props, what will happen is it will still read those values from context. What will only change for student summary component is you will say that const student summary equal to use context student summary context, or student context. Actually, it's not even. Okay, and now you will say Wonderful. This is super. Now you will say const student ID, student name, student points level. I will have to figure out a better tool to use for this one. Equal to student summary. Okay, so this is all you need to do in your code. Use context, student context. So the student context is a component defined at the top level, and you get all the values of student summary from student context. It can be further shortened if you want that way, to directly say like this. Okay, so basically what it will do is extract all the values from student context and give it to you. Does this make sense? Now, how it is set in the student context is not a worry that this component needs to do. Clear? How it is actually managed at the level of student context is not something that is this component's concern. All that you need to worry about is extracting those values from the student context. Okay. Any questions here?
So we need to be aware of all the context, like use context and other things, no, Davalji, so that wherever it is necessary, we can use it.
Yeah. I am not expecting you to know the full syntax and all these things.
Huh.
As long as you know the concept of a context, that it's actually like a component which sits at the top level, and it holds all these data. The actual
Should be aware
very
of the library
we did
which has all the components in general.
Sorry, say that again, please.
No, we should be aware of the React library which has all the concepts, so that wherever it is necessary, we can use.
Yeah, you can definitely, if you want, you can learn more about the concept of context as well. No harm in doing that. And if you want to get by minimum learning, then you can definitely just directly come to this part. But at least knowing the term will help you. That context is a component which is sitting at the top level, somewhere below app. Okay.
Okay.
And that is going to store all the data for the, so it will be like this: app, student, context, then header, and student summary. Okay, and student summary will read data directly from student context. Now, if there are like 50 components in between, component 1, component 2, you don't need to worry about passing it from app to header, from header to component 1, from component 1 to student summary. That is a tiresome exercise. That is the entire use of a context component. That is why I even explicitly want us to know what is a context component. Okay. Now, setting the values in context component is something that app will do. Okay, reading it from server and setting it into context component, that is something app will do. But we have to at least use the context to read the values from it. Okay. Let me see if this is straightforward. Yeah. So this is the usage of use context and create context. Let me do this thing, okay? Quickly. New file, student context dot tsx. Actually, this does not need to be a tsx file, it needs to be a TypeScript file. So what I need to say here is very simple. I will say student context export student context. Here I will say empty. So current student context is empty. Now here in app, what we will do is we will say this dot provider import student context from okay, and here we will say constant student data set student data too much. I would have been much more faster in Visual Studio.
We can use Visual Studio also, no? Dhavalji?
Yeah, we have to. So very soon we are switching to Visual Studio mode, okay? We don't want to use all these playgrounds. We will be much more productive directly in Visual Studio. In fact, what we were discussing yesterday, that we want all of us to have local copies of Studentmate as it is right now. And, we want to develop against that now, rather than anything else. Okay, so now what I want to do is say student context dot provider. very much like this.
Dhaval ji, you please write it in notepad only. We can follow.
Okay, that works. Okay, that's a good suggestion. Okay, so student context dot provider. Actually, that's a good idea. I should do this and then run it in Playground. So in my app, what I'm doing is at the very top level, I have a student context provider. Okay. And what I'm doing is value equal to student data. Now, instead of now passing it everywhere here, I don't need to do this. Okay, what is the problem here? In student summary, use context is not defined. Oh yeah. And we need to also import student context here because we are reading from the student context. We need to also import student context. So did you understand now what is happening? I will show you. See, there is a student context we created at the very top level. Okay. And this currently has no value. Student context currently has no value. Now in app, what I am doing is importing the student context. This is probably the data I am loading from server. Okay. And I'm saying student context dot provider value equal to student data. I'm setting the value of my loaded data as this one. Now what happens? Anywhere in this entire app tree, okay, anywhere within this entire app tree, my student context data is easily accessible by this way. I can just say student ID, student name, points level equal to use context, student context. Okay. Does this make sense? So I can directly refer to them here. Did it make sense?
Yes, Dhavalji.
But
for each context, we have to create a file and import that.
Yes, we have to create a file. That is how it is able to maintain the integrity of a context that we are referring to student. Otherwise, it can be any data, right?
Okay.
Here I am able to say that my shape of data is this. Although say student ID null, or let me just create a better interface. Okay. So let me copy this rather than write it here. What I can say is interface student data student data. I can say student ID number, student name string, student level number, and points number. It's actually score, right? Score number. Okay. So now I can say that create a context, and let me create an initial value, const initial student data equal to here. I'll say zero student name level null or undefined actually, and score null. Okay, now when I create the context with and I specify the interface type here, what this allows me to do is now this context data type is firm. So like we did in TypeScript exercise, within two components, my context contract is defined. See, here it is saying points is not existing.
Because
this make
there you
sense?
have given it as score.
Score, exactly. Okay, so I have to use score here. And here we will realize that we were using point. So as soon as we added score, this started working. So this way of doing things ensure that between multiple components, my data integrity is maintained. I can enforce a type for the context. This does nothing but just hold the data at the top level. The advantage being now I can access it anywhere within the tree. Okay. Does this make sense? Any questions so far?
Yes, Dhavalji, it is understandable. It's clear.
Okay. All these are links as well. So they are linking to something like we very much want in our application. They are also linking to some navigation or some scorecard items. Okay, we can say that link equal to scorecard. My account. Okay. All right. So now let's proceed a little bit with 5 minutes only. We will not do much today then. Otherwise, we'll run out of time. But let's proceed a bit with the split of components we were doing yesterday. And see this, along with this process, I'll also guide you towards how to set up your project in Windows machine. Okay, so this is our project directory that I've downloaded. Okay, if you are at all comfortable with command line, what you can do is go to this one and say npm install. I navigated here and I said npm install. What does that did? What this did is whatever is specified in my package.json here. So I've installed Visual Studio Code. We will do this exercise separately. I will want to, do this step by step, and I would want you all to follow these steps in your local machine so that we are all in the same stage of installation. But I'll show you whatever is there in package.json. Wow, this is taking a lot of time to just find it, and it's in front of me. So I'll just open it from here. Okay, So whatever is there in package.json, you can see it's a big list. Okay, and most of it is actually generated by our Bolt. But whatever it is there in that package.json, it will install. Okay, so now it has installed all those modules locally called node modules. And now I can do another thing called run my development server, npm run dev. As soon as I do that, my local copy of Studentmate is up and running. It's very simple. I need to go to command line, first install all the packages, and then do a run of my development server. So that is starting my local copy of Studentmate. Okay, and this is the downloaded folder. Well, as soon as you have Visual Studio Code installed, what you can do is just say open with code. So that will immediately open up the project folder. Now the beauty here is that React and front end is instant change and instant preview environment. Okay, that means in my splash screen, you can see that there is all this code. Now, if I modify even a little bit, okay, let's say I want to find biscuits. Okay, so it's very much like our that React playground. I can specify biscuits Gurukul student mate, and as soon as I reload, okay, you will see that now it is saying biscuits Gurukul student mate. Okay, if I just remove this, now it will not even show that change because it is not in that current screen. But let me go to the home component here. Okay, and show you our daily activity. So you can see that that is gravity basics it is referring to here. Okay, and today's activity it is referring to here. So I'll say today's agenda. Okay, I did not even need to refresh the page. It is doing a live reload of the changed things. So as soon as I make this change, it is immediately reflecting here. That is the speed with which we can develop. Okay, that is why front-end development is very speedy. You can see that immediately it is going to say gravity introduction. As soon as you are making your changes, you will be able to preview here. So I want all of us to actually get to this state very soon so that you can quickly develop and change and preview your changes and develop the code. Okay. Now, last thing is our breakdown exercise we were doing, and I'll open up the Studentmate UI flow. We are good for 5 more minutes, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Yes, G.
So Studentmate UI flow, we were having that document, but it's not showing it here. Yeah, this one. So here I have listed down all the components so far. Let me see if Pratibhaji is also here. Okay, Pratibhaji is here, yeah. So let me share screen back. So I've listed down all the components here. One thing that is pending, and I think that is we are going to run out of time for that today, is updating the schema of lessons here. So we just have the components here, like for subject and topic and lesson, but we don't have the schema here yet. but I don't want to get to that schema today. What I want to still do properly is this breakdown exercise that we were doing yesterday, and continue on that. So I'll for now just even, not refer to that portion and just continue this breakdown exercise from browser directly into Notepad. Okay. So top level component, like we discussed, is Studentmate app. Okay. Within Studentmate app, we have this header component. Within header component, we have student summary. Okay. Now you all know the context portion. So there is a student context that is available throughout the app. Okay, and that will be staying at the level of Studentmate app, so that all the components below it are going to be able to use that. So in fact, all the components are wrapped up inside the student context. Okay. Now let's come to the home screen. So we are done with the app level breakdown. Now we have pages in the app. Okay. So here there is a page called home. Okay. Home page is this much. What are the components within home page?
Various cards, like fundamental
Activities.
achievements.
Okay, activities or card list. But card list is from a UI perspective. I want to give a better name to this. What are these things?
Features.
Features are also is a very generic word. For a student, what are these things?
Tasks.
Activities only.
Activities only.
I think these are various sections of the app. And this is a name to be discussed properly. So if there are better suggestions, let me know. But activities is ambiguous. Then we would want to rename this section.
Yeah, that's what.
Sections only is proper, Dhaval.
Yeah, I think these are subsections of the app, various sections in which they can do something. Okay. And we are also, these are more or less, they are apps on its own, if you think of it that way. So sections will be rendering in cards. Okay. At the level of sections, we have another component called agenda, which is going to render the agenda. So far, so good.
Yes, Dhaval.
Yes.
Okay. Now, if I go to, let's not, discuss too much about all these sections, because that's where even we need to do the design exercise first. But this is where we are productionizing. So we are going into fundamentals now. So what is this page called?
Details of our subjects. Details
Yeah.
of
These are
subjects taught at
subjects.
Learning page.
subjects taught at Gurukul.
These are subjects, right? Science, technology, arts, mathematics.
Yes, STEAM. Actually, it is a stream. So STEAM.
Yeah, or STEAM. Both are fine. Streams or subject. If we give a very specific name for it, what happens is tomorrow if a subject changes or we add or remove something, then that name is no longer relevant. Okay, versus if this is capturing the essence of this correctly, like various subjects within class, then we are good for that. Okay. So now agenda within home, sorry, agenda subject is not a separate, and subject does not even come within home. Okay. Subject is a parallel component to home. Subjects is a page. Like home being a page. Yes. Huh?
Yes, Ji.
हाँ वैशाली बोला. So subjects is a page similar to home. Okay. It's not coming within home. Okay. It's a similar page to home. Now in subjects, is there any other component? Subject is just rendering a subject list, right? What is there in the subjects page?
Different subjects.
Subject list. So this is a widget. Okay. These are all pages and these are all small features or widgets. We can break down our component this way. Okay. Header is also a widget or a section. You can say it's a section or a widget. So we are dividing things into three levels. One is the topmost app level component. Then we have pages, and within pages we have widgets. Okay. So subject list is a widget. Okay. That will use cards to render the list of subject. Okay. So now that we are mentioning cards as well, cards is also a component. Where does card component come? There is a common folder in which we have cards, because cards is a component which is a generic UI component. It's not specific to any other particular.
It is a separate file, is it?
Yeah, it's a separate file in a separate folder, because we don't want to relate it to any particular hierarchy.
It's not. It will not come in the source folder also.
It will come in the source folder.
Source
It is
folder.
there in the source folder. If you look
Okay.
at our code, currently you will get a clarity that it is there in source folder, but it is not in any specific particular component. Like say, for example, this is home component, right? There is studies component.
Yes.
But then there is another common component file,
Okay.
okay, where we have cards and all. Okay, in fact, I have even given further, breakdown there, called that this is called a UI component. Okay, because it's doing some very specific UI related thing. Okay, for that matter, even header can be isolated as a separate component.
Okay.
Okay, because that is not something that usually is related to a page. Okay. Now, so this is subject list, subject page rendering subject list. Now this is what page?
Topics.
Okay, so this is another page, topics. Okay, page, and it is saying topic list. If I click on a topic,
Lessons.
we have a lessons page where we have lesson list. Okay. And finally, we go to a particular component called lesson. Now, does it make sense to group all of these in something called studies or learn or fundamentals? Because, these are a particular section of the app which is very much related to learning. Otherwise, what will happen is there are going to be far more new components at this level. If I don't break them down logically, then there will be a very flat hierarchy. Do you understand what I'm meaning here?
So you're grouping, no, Dhavalji?
Yes, exactly. I'm grouping.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm grouping. So because I want another thing called activities here. Okay, which is not actually a page, but it is a section of the app or a sub app. Okay, this is so all these are actually going to be housed under fundamentals. I can also keep on housing them nested way, but it does not make any sense. Okay, because these are pages and I don't want pages to be nested inside pages. So I'm keeping a flat hierarchy here, but at the same time, I'm introducing a level of grouping called fundamentals. Okay, and all of these are actually using cards, so I'm keeping cards as common. So far, so good.
Yes, Dhavalji.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so this is what we will be updating in our hierarchy. Yesterday, I was thinking of some hierarchy, but we have come up with much better hierarchy here. So I will add login, logout here as functionalities or components. So this is a much better hierarchy than what I was thinking yesterday. Wow, it's not honoring this. I'll convert it properly. So anytime you want to refer, please refer to this Studentmate UI flow document.
Okay, Ji.
Okay, I'll add it for UI team so that it is not ambiguous. Tomorrow, what we will do is we will add the shape of lessons here. So that will be another good exercise for Pratibhaji. You will get to know, what is the current state of lessons. Okay, any questions for today? I still want you to do the exercise, okay, of this student context. I
Yes.
just explained it, for better clarity. I still want you to think more about the layout and all and finish the exercise. Meantime, tomorrow, what exercise we will do is we will set up the local development environment for you so that whatever exercise I give now, you can directly kind of like, preview that in your browser. We don't want to use this playground now. I think it was very cumbersome. We will just preview that directly in our browser.
I think most of us have a VS Code already. If so, can we do it in VS Code only directly?
Yeah. If you are fine with VS Code, just go ahead and do that. Okay. So we'll just, for the sake of it, do a VS Code setup exercise and this exercise, command line setup exercise. But apart from that, we'll start doing live coding. And last step would be doing this Carnegie's, continuous deployment connection. So what we will do is whatever changes you will do and we want to check it in, you will have to commit and push to GitHub and submit a PR request. So once you submit a PR, what will happen is we will review that code and merge in GitHub. So that will be the commit process for the tasks that we assign. Okay, any questions?
No question, Talji.
Okay, all right. See you tomorrow then. I will close with prayers.
Okay, thank you.
Om Asatoma Satkamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amrutam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tatsat. Shri Gurupyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you all.